liberty and justice for all.
At this point, I'd like to ask the board to introduce themselves, starting with Marion, if you would. Introductions, please.
Hi, I'm Marion Ireland. I live on Brackett Road.
I'm Teresa Schulteis. I'm the town clerk.
John Phelan, town supervisor.
Robert Boudreau, town council. George Crowe, town council.
Rick Ranger, highway department.
Thank you. Thank you indeed for all coming tonight. We have I'm sure most of you are here for the meeting at 8, but we also have business to attend to before 8. I purposely moved this to 8 o'clock because I felt it could go on for an extended period of time, and we intend to allow it to go on for an extended period of time so that people get a chance to speak. However, the town still has to pay its bills. It still has to have actions taken, and they need to be taken care of first. And then we will get on. We've got other laws involved tonight as well. Do we have, has the town council had a chance to review the minutes of the meetings from May 11th and May 24th special meeting? Now, what started that is because I've toured some of the facilities in northern Shenango, and I've researched some of the standards that private gas companies have to deal with, and honestly, they're very lax on their standards from what I could see for installing typical gathering lines or short-term lines. I've been provided with a packet from Corning Natural Gas, which is their standards of construction, which are completely regulated by the Public Service Commission. And I think what we're moving towards is to make the same Public Service Commission regulations that apply to a utility company also apply to Joe Smith Company out of West Virginia somewhere. Because the issues were is that the lines up in the northern end of the county were not well marked, and there were other issues. And we fully intend to investigate the matter and move forward, and if need be, pass legislation for us in the future. But this construction standards manual was provided to me within 6 hours after I asked for it. It's in detail, and we will be working from that. Also, last month, the town resolved to develop a local law regulating, actually banning, we'll see how it's going to work out in the legalese, both injection and storage wells within the town. At this point, we're working towards that. We're going to look at various regulations of towns throughout the country that have adopted those things, but we're not interested in having stuff injected to get rid of it. So those are a couple things that we're working on with the gas situation that has been going on for a while. We should also know that we have but the former board signed a lease with Norse Energy for a pipeline right-of-way through the town land on Wiley Horton Road back in 2008, I believe it was. It expires at the end of this year, which suits us just fine for now. And so we'll take it from there, but it does not look like that people will be starting construction, and if it's not going to start construction, then the lease expires December 31st. So that took place about 5 years ago, and I just wanted to point that out because this board is not ignorant to these matters. We have some guests here from Leatherstocking. I would ask you to introduce yourself, if you would, and give a 15-minute or so.
Concerns like that?
Excuse me?
Are you going to dismiss all of our concerns like that tonight?
No, I don't think so, but I know that we have a... No, absolutely not. You're on the agenda. This is not on the agenda. We have a tight meeting here. And if I allow it to, then you will not get a chance to talk, because we'll delve on this for a long time. Certainly not. But we also have certain personnel issues which are done in executive session and are not discussed in open session, whether it be regarding an attorney or an employee or behavior of an employee. And, and there is only so much that we can allow out to the public, or we will be liable for it in court. Just like your employer, if he publicized why they were disciplining you or something to that effect. So, no, I don't mean to put it off quickly. I'm trying to stay on track. We've got quite a meeting here. So, if I could, I know that I have we have Mike German from Leatherstocking. We have Mr. Joe Mirabito from Leatherstocking. Going to have to help me down a little more.
Matt Cook.
Matt Cook.
Jerry Sleevey.
Jerry Sleevey from Leatherstocking. For anybody that wasn't here, we had an informal meeting 2 weeks ago. And these gentlemen, we spent a couple hours here. And they went over the whole thing and what their plans were. And it was just so that everybody get a warm-up. And it looks like it worked. So I would ask you, if you could, to give a short overview of the main goals of what Leatherstocking is seeking to do.
Be glad to. Thank you for having us again. My name, for those who didn't hear it, or can you hear it in the back?
No.
Can't hear you. I don't have the only thing I can do is turn the air conditioning off. What's the choice? Yeah, because Jerry, come on over.
Okay. My name is Jerry Sleevey. I'll give you just a quick, broad overview of who we are, the four people that were introduced here. Did you hear the names of who's here?
No,
Mike?
not all of them.
Not all of them?
No.
Mike German is President and CEO of Corning Natural Gas and is on the board of Leatherstocking Natural Gas. Joe Mirabito with Mirabito Holdings, Inc. is the CEO of Mirabito Holdings, Inc. and is also on the board of Leatherstocking Natural Gas. Matt Cook is the Vice President of Operations for Corning Natural Gas and is also on the Leatherstocking board. My name is Jerry Sleevey. I'm the corporate secretary for Leatherstocking Natural Gas and Vice President of Administration for Corning Natural Gas. The company, Leatherstocking Natural Gas Company, is a... I'm sorry to have my back.
No, you're fine. We know. You're fine.
The Leatherstocking Natural Gas Company is a partnership of a New York public utility, Corning Natural Gas, and Mirabito Holdings, which is an energy provider. Well, I'm sure most of you know more about them than that. But they're a regional company here in this part of New York State. The purpose of this company and the operations of this company are as a local distribution company in the New York State vernacular. That is a company that distributes natural gas to customers. We are not a pipeline company. We are not anything other than a local distribution company. The reason we formed the company and are looking at natural gas franchises in this region that's where our roots are. Corning Natural Gas was founded in 1904 as a local distribution company, a utility, public utility. I say we are heavily regulated by New York State. I'm sure there are some people who would not agree with that necessarily, but everything that we do, the rates that we charge, the way we maintain our pipelines, everything about us is regulated. Our finances are highly regulated by the Public Service Commission, and we have them around us all the time. So the reason we have interest here in this area is in the southern tier of New York, where we started and where we operate primarily now, although we are now in the town of Virgil, not too far from here. is we're made up of, our whole company enterprise is made up of small communities. And the reason we believe it's a good idea is that even small communities ought to get the benefits of low-cost energy. Bill Mirabito is our pretty face in the organization, and it is heavily involved in other sources of energy, and propane and fuel oil and those kinds of things. Natural gas is very competitively priced compared to those energy products. Businesses in these small towns have a hard time paying energy bills, and we believe natural gas is a benefit to them that they should share. We should share with them. We do have a public hearing. I'll talk as long as you want me to, but at 8 o'clock it will be open to all of you for comments, and we will just listen at that point. So I guess I would ask, or I can take questions before that if you'd like, but we probably will want to leave those to the general public to ask questions of the board. One of the things that we hear once in a while, and we have heard in our other franchise discussions in other towns, is that we get to do what we want to do as a utility company. And if you, I would encourage any of you or all of you to go on the Department of Public Service website in New York State, and you will read volumes and volumes about regulations for public utility companies. It is, again, the purpose of public utility companies is to distribute natural gas that is purchased from, in our case, in most of what we have done in the past, it's been from interstate pipelines that are a network all over the country, in this area as well, not specifically in Coventry, but in this region of the state. They just spiderweb the entire United States, and most utility companies receive natural gas from there. In cases where it's possible, in our company's case, we have some opportunities, have had some opportunities for purchasing local gas, and that can be a benefit in a cost, from the cost side. So they're pretty much the only two places you can get natural gas are local wells or interstate pipelines, and that's how utility companies operate, how we receive our gas. The franchise process the reason we're here, we have been here in an informational session, and the reason we're here tonight is that we have asked to talk with the town about receiving a franchise to operate a gas utility in the town of Coventry. That requires several steps. A couple of them we've already been through, the informational session with the board. Can you hear me back there okay? Then the next step is to move to the public hearing, which we're going to have in a few minutes. Then there is an application process where we will formally apply, assuming the town wants us or is willing to have us do that. We will apply for a franchise. They will review the application. They'll review the franchise documents. It's when conditions that, as was explained to you, the construction process, how pipelines are maintained, where they're allowed to be, the conditions that they are, that when pipe is put in, the backfill that's replaced, all of the pavement restoration, the lawn restoration, all of those restrictions are worked out between the utility and the town, and then any regulations. Again, as a public utility, we're not only regulated by the Public Service Commission, but we are regulated by all of the public subdivision, the governmental subdivisions that we occupy, whether it's a village or a town, county, or state right-of-ways, wherever we have pipelines, we have to follow the rules that are set up. The terms of the franchise agreement are all negotiated through the town, their council, and assuming favorable terms are agreed upon by both parties, we are then granted a franchise. Then the hard work begins, where we have the three pieces that we have to try and put together. That is a supply of natural gas, which is wells or pipelines. We have the connecting pipeline, the network to the customers, and then the customers are, obviously, none of us are in business without customers, so we have to go out and secure customers that will help put the economics of the project in place.
Junior, would you address A, how long you've been in business, and B, your dealings with eminent domain? I may be aware of correspondence that you are not of. Like NYSEG and like others, you have eminent domain. Would you be expecting to use eminent domain? Where are you going to run this pipeline?
Well, the first piece of a public utility does have the authority for eminent domain, an eminent domain proceeding. For those of you that aren't familiar with eminent domain, it really isn't quite as easy as it sounds sometimes when you say it, but there is a process that can be followed for the public good for a piece of property to be occupied. That is not our intention. It is not how we operate our franchises currently. And the reason, the real reason for a public utility to form itself and be a public utility in New York State is that part of the condition of the franchise is we would be allowed to occupy the right-of-way, the streets, roads, and public right-of-ways in the town of Coventry in this case. So that's where, and I think part of that confusion comes from the difference between pipeline companies and public utilities. They're just completely separate animals. The Public Service Commission does not regulate utilities. Well, it regulates utilities in ways that it doesn't regulate almost any other business in New York State. Mike?
It is our intention, to answer your first question, to put our pipe in public right-of-ways along county and state roads. And we have no intention at this point of being on private property. We have been in business 107 years. We have never, as far as I know, exercised the right of eminent domain in 107 years. All utilities in the state, be they an electric utility like NYSEG, and I used to work for NYSEG, have the right of eminent domain. But utilities are extremely adverse to use it. And we will probably discuss that when we negotiate the franchise agreement. But there is no intention for us to exercise eminent domain rights whatsoever in the town of Coventry.
Ever.
Ever.
I mean, I'm sure it's more it would be more profitable not to have to make use of the eminent domain because it would be cheaper and free to use the right-of-ways. However, that's a situation where we would have no control over these right-of-ways that...
You don't anyway. It's a right-of-way. The state has a right-of-way.
But if this goes 75 feet, this can have, according to the planning board meeting, this can actually go as much as 75 feet on board.
Could you speak up?
Can we hear what's going on?
Everybody, could you be quiet so that we can hear what
We draw this over, please.
going
Could you
on?
repeat the question?
The question is the overall goal is, my understanding, is to get local gas to local industries in a relatively closed loop in order to keep and promote jobs at Amphenol, Meade, Sydney Hospital, and potentially provide low-cost natural gas to Coventry, Bainbridge, Sydney, and the Village of Sydney. That's where the plan stands at present.
Tell them where you're going to run the pipe.
So any Coventry residents would benefit from this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I know our last gas meeting, if there was enough people on the road.
Right.
Now, we are right next to the well. There are 5 people. Do you plan to give us gas?
Let's start with.
I mean, are you planning to run gas to our houses?
John explained exactly our plan, because that's exactly what we explained at the last meeting. Our goal is to pick up gas from local production, be it in Coventry or elsewhere in this immediate area, and initially pipe it to the large industrial customers like Amphenol and Mead and schools and town buildings in order to save those jobs and to save the town money. If we get enough wells, be they here or elsewhere, we would hook up customers. Anyone in proximity to the pipeline that we would build would be offered natural gas service. But we are not like a water utility. If you don't want natural gas service, you don't have to take it. So anyone in proximity to the pipe we would build would be offered natural gas service, and we are mandated by the State Public Service Commission to offer 100 free feet of main and 100 free feet of gas service to the home if we're in proximity to anyone who wants natural gas service. We have typically offered a lot more than 100 feet of main and 100 feet of service free to customers, and we've done that in the franchises we have piped.
The Hoban well, which is the big well in question.
We are not a producer.
People living on that road.
We are not a producer. I mean, let me make that
Well, is the pipeline going to be?
We are just a local distribution company. We put in plastic pipe at relatively low pressure to move gas to the local communities. If that pipe goes near your home, we will offer you gas service.
The service lines to these homes, or is that going to be another company?
At this point, I'm
He
gonna
just said
have
100
to-
feet.
Whoa, answer
We're
the
going to
question.
have more. What we want to hear is your questions. We're going to write them down and we're going to answer them. That's what we're looking
I got
for.
one question.
So-
Always talking about eminent domain. I've been hearing from all kinds of people that right away, eminent domain, it's 50 feet from the center of a road, or it's 100 feet back, or 72 feet from the center of the road. What is it?
If you would, which I'd like a motion to open public hearing. Second? Discussion?
No, I want to know.
Public hearing's open. If you would, sir, just step up to the podium, state your name and where you live, and ask your question, preferably in 3 minutes or less. We'll be taking notes of it, and we will get back to you. Anyone that wishes to address the board, please get up and preferably in 3 minutes or so, give us a yay, we want this, or a no, we don't, and why or not you don't want it.
My name is Greg Evans. I live on North Road, 254, and I'm concerned about eminent domain, the right-of-way, pipe, gas lines, whether they're coming from wells or from utility or whatever. And all I hear is different figures about how many feet from the center of the road these lines are, or these right-of-ways. 50 feet, 72 feet, I don't know. I get all different answers. So knowing North Road, where I am, which is it? What is it?
25 feet from the center of the road.
Could you repeat your answer,
50
sir?
feet total, 25 feet from the center.
Town road.
Either side of the
25
road.
I say 50 feet, that's ditch to ditch.
And you'll find that when you ask about the right-of-ways on any of these roads, but the town's mostly 50 feet. As far as I know, it's all 50 feet total, 25 feet off center. Now, when you go into the state or the county, it differs. When you could, but the one way to tell is to look at where the power lines are. They're utilities with eminent domain too, but they don't use them, and nobody ever will. But they're here first. They got first dibs. So their power poles are pretty well set right at the edge of the right-of-way, and you could pretty well be sure that any pipeline is going to be inside of those power lines closer to the road.
So are these utility lines for customers, or are these lines for from the wells? How's that work?
Well, it's
You're talking about two different animals here. You're talking about the loss of somebody that's got wells, and then there's somebody that wants customers and wants the pipe gas. So we're the two animals we're talking about, which we're talking to non-customers, right?
I'm trying to understand how to do this. I know how we do public hearings at the county. And the board doesn't address anything, they just listen. And then we write these down, and we get back to you, and we take these concerns. I don't really think that's...
One that applies to one thing might not apply to another.
Yeah.
Like right away, it might be what he said.
Well, if you're coming up 206, again, I'd look on just inside the telephone poles, typically, is probably where you're going to be. As far off the blacktop as they can get, but not into nice side. Jim?
My understanding is that the state is 75 feet complete, so it's 3750 from center.
Yeah, and I know
Because I
around
live
over
on
the
state
corner, I
road.
think it's
My
100.
garage is on the corner, of my garage is on state road.
So, there's no road.
County, I don't know.
That's 25%.
That's a town road. That's not a state.
Town road, I don't know whether it's town road.
We have, what have we tried to find out?
Okay.
I'll be quick. I promise.
Wait a
Now, is it okay to ask a question, or is it just I'm stating what I'm going to
Well,
get
you're
back?
supposed to state what you want, but we're going to have Coventry.
We're going to answer.
You know?
My name is Jill Conway. I live on County Road 9. And I guess my question is it Bill? Mike, sorry. When you said that your goal was to pick up local gas and distribute it to local businesses, how are you picking up the local gas? Because you said you're a distributor, right?
The producer has the obligation to build a gathering. And the producer has the obligation to build gathering. We would put in what is called a gate station, a measuring station, and they would hook into us, and then we would be a utility in that town right away.
But you would not be, your system would not be leaving the right of way of the town. The utility the producer brings it to the
That's the
town
way
right
we've
away.
always worked it in the
So it has to be a
past.
producer that the town or whoever agreed to let have a gathering station, and then you would be able to hook up, and then
They would have gathering lines, they would pipe, and then we would put in a meter station and connect to them in that public right of way. We would be a utility, that's all we are.
So you wouldn't be doing anything with gathering. You're just running the pipeline. If somebody else happens to come in and set up something like that, then you would be able to hook up and distribute the gas to anybody who's near the line.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Nancy Raybuck. I live on Stonehill Road, and I did have the gas companies come to me to ask to do an easement for, and they were going to drill and frack and all this stuff. So I did a lot of self-education so that I wouldn't get in trouble. And I hear all this hysteria from people who are hearing rumors and confusing lots of different things together because they haven't gone through all the time of finding out the answers to these questions. So I'm hoping I can give some information, okay? You have your companies that come in and want to dig a well, okay? If they want to dig a well and you want to sign a lease and blah, 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 and they have to pipe the gas they take out of the well to a place where they off-gas the stuff they can't sell, concentrate with the type of gases they can sell, like propane, methane. They're going to off-gas hydrogen sulfide. They're going to off-gas butane or maybe concentrate butane. Okay, that's one system, all right? And Nornu's already purchased property in Coventry. You know, they own property and they have to get permission to do that if that's what they want to do, and they have to do it safely, etc. What this company is asking to do is, once that gas is available, concentrated in a marketable form to sell so that you can heat your home or, you know, run your furnace or whatever, power your equipment, they get it, they buy the gas from the producer who took it out of the well, made it into a sellable form, and they put it in pipelines to come to your house or your business to power your equipment or heat your home. So what they're asking to do is to have permission to negotiate with the town to have places where they can put their pipes to get the sellable gas from the producer to your home or your business, because right now that infrastructure is not there, okay? So even if they, you know, if everybody says, no, we don't want pipes in our roads, oh my God, you know, then whole thing's dead. But if we say as a community, yes, we want to have these opportunities for business and for residents to get natural gas to their home because it is a cheap, reliable source of energy, then their attorneys meet with, you know, our attorneys that we have to hire, and they negotiate that. And we can ask for things like, you know, make sure that, you know, you're going to make this road nice and pretty, and you're going to build it this way, and you're going to check out your lines this often, and all this stuff. We can do things in addition to what the public service company regulations require. Okay, but there are lots of communities around here that have distribution systems. You know, Oxford does, Walton, New York does. I mean, that's the same kind of thing we're looking at for the towns around here. You know, if gas is never dug and there's no gas available to sell, these guys aren't going to dig any pipes and put any pipes in, even if they have a contract with our town, okay? So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but I hear all this hysteria. You know, the 50 feet easement thing is, if you grant an easement to the driller of the well to put the pipe in, it's only a 2.5 foot pipe. We're not talking about this company. This is the gas drilling company. Okay, then you can't build anything on either side of that 2.5 foot pipe. But if you don't agree to sell that easement to the driller of the gas company, it's not an issue for you. So if you have 2 acres, I would recommend you don't sell an easement to the gas company like that. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
These are all people from Coventry. My name is Nancy. Other towns that will also be affected by this pipeline.
If you would, let the record note that Kim Michaels presented us with petitions from Coventry. If anybody presented.
Actually, the one section is just from Coventry, and I believe there was 105 signatures, and it was just, I think people only first had access to this as of Saturday, so that's less than a week ago.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board with their concerns? If you would, step up to the podium and state your name and
along with my petition.
I just got something quick.
My name is Bob Smith. I live on County Route 27. I really am looking forward to this happening so that with the progress moving forward, this is a clean natural gas. This is the cleanest thing you can use for fuel, heat our homes. And it's, instead of burning other things like wood and oil, take you out of business, Joe. But, you know what I mean? And it's important for all of us. Now, the schools, when you're going to deal with schools, you're going to give them a good break. So our taxes will go down a little bit maybe, or remain the same, but they go up all the time. And part of that is energy costs, correct? So that's all my concern, and I'm for this.
Spoken with the CEOs from Amphenol, Mead, the hospital, a couple other industries have all spoken. Called this week asking that we consider this favorably. The estimates I've heard are savings of over $1 million for just one industry alone.
And is that guaranteeing jobs, or are they just going to take the profit?
Would state your name?
My name is Kim Michaels. I live here in Coventry. And one of my biggest concerns was the whole issue of eminent domain and giving our private company that the ability to enforce eminent domain upon us, and also making use of our
right-of-ways. Could you speak louder?
Is that if I spoke this way?
Yeah,
that would be better, thanks.
One of my biggest concerns is the use of the right-of-ways that go through that run through our properties, and I keep hearing that, oh, this is not our properties, but when I specifically asked someone from Leatherstocking just a couple weeks ago, whoops, about this issue, and I was referring to that 75 feet that you had mentioned, John, that you wanted to stay as far from the asphalt as possible, and he's like, oh, you must be, kept trying to shy away from that number, and go, talk about, oh, it varies, it's usually about this or about this, and finally ended up saying, oh, that's either you must be referring to state roads, and and apparently it varies even within state road, county road, town road, from what everybody's saying, and he said, this is not your property, and I was just like, well, 75 feet from the center of the road, that sure as heck is my property, that's on my property, and they were saying that it says right in the deed to your property that there are right-of-ways that basically you don't own. Well, I mean, I personally consider my property line to end right at, by the ditch beside the road, and if they're going to make use of these right-of-ways, even if they're going like where the utility lines are. The last time they came to cut trees on my property just last fall, which is the first time in over 30 years that they decided they wanted to come cut trees on the property. They said they had the right to cut trees 15 feet either side of the line. Well, I've got about 30 feet of trees completely surrounding my property, which gives it a nice feeling of seclusion. And if this pipeline comes through and they decide they want to make use of that, I don't want that. I can't imagine anybody else here wants that either. And just, that's one of the issues. Another issue is safety. The Village of Sydney, I looked at the agreement with, Leatherstocking's agreement with the Village of Sydney, and they made sure they addressed the issues of explosions, gas leaks, and they wanted to make sure that Leatherstocking was taking on those responsibilities. He lives up in Cooperstown. He was playing after at the Atlantic Richfield Arco, and he was an independent oil and gas producer involved in offshore drilling for over 20 years. His response was, tonight is stuff he couldn't make it. This is very simple. A privately owned gathering system is trying to pretend that they are a public utility so that they have the power of condemnation over right-of-way. We have seen that game before in Texas. There is no reason other than stupidity or corruption for a municipal agency to confer that power on them. When absent that right, they simply have to buy the right of way as best they can without power of condemnation, like any private company. There is no upside for an elected official to do this. The private gathering system will be built privately or not. And the thing is, and he knew that I was referring to, to a distribution system. That's the main claim here. But you're also the plan is you're going to collect this from the Hoogan well and bring it to Amphenol. Then you've already got plans to continue on to Cooperstown, go through the town of Greene to Binghamton, and then have service lines going to all these private homes. This whole town is going to be spidered with pipelines.
Isn't it also going to go to Greene?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
I've heard it's going to go to Greene.
And I mentioned Greene as well to the Randy Corporation.
Yeah.
And, you're making it sound like you're doing, everybody's doing this, a big favor to us. Well,
we're the last ones to get it.
That gas is, it might be cheap now because there's no demand for it. 5 years down the road, how much you want to make a bet that those prices are they'll be going up there like everything else. Meanwhile, we have safety issues, health concerns to worry about, and I haven't heard any talk about compressor stations. I don't see how these are going to go to all these different places without compressor stations. You have to have odorizers, metering stations, dehydrators, and the one thing in particular with Corning Gas being 50% owner, listened to a friend of mine did an audio tape of the Ford County Regional Collaborative where Jim Austin from the Public Service Commission was there to address concerns by area supervisors in 4 counties. And one of the things he mentioned was pipelines. In that instance, he was referring to gathering lines. That was their concern at the time because of the situation with Norse Energy. They had just discovered it was actually up to them to basically to do the regulating. They didn't realize that the Public Service Commission, the DEC, it wasn't their job to do that with pipelines less than 125 psi. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think it might have been, I think it might have been you, John, that asked the question. The operating pressure in the line when they start is less than 125 psi, and later on, if they want to jack up that pressure, can they do that? And apparently, this was, they said yes, they can. All they have to do is ask for a certificate. And ask for a certificate, and if it was originally designed to up to 4,000 psi, and the company they used as an example was Corning. And I tried to find out a little bit more about this. I haven't. It's only been a month since I first found out about this at the previous town board meeting. But I called the Public Service Commission, spoke to someone else there, and asked about if he knew the correlation between pouring the gas and this increase to 4,000 psi that they had referenced in that meeting. And he immediately knew what I was talking about. He said he didn't know the exact case number, but he described the exact situation of what is happening here, where you're starting off with one well, taking it to a couple of anchor businesses, and later on down the road, you want to increase that to add residents on board and bring it to other companies. Like I said, I haven't had a whole lot of time to research this, but quite frankly, I think this is something our town board should be really concerned about. Like I said, Chip, this whole situation, you were at that meeting. I went to the last, now they're not calling it a 4th county meeting. I think a few counties might have dropped out of that deal. But now they're just calling it the Regional Gas Collaborative. And they have someone else from the Public Service Commission there as well. And one of the concerns that came up, and the Public Service Commission guy that was there specifically mentioned Big Safe New York. Everybody's saying like, oh, we have this, with the tracer wires, it's all good. Well, he's saying that there's a big problem with inaccuracies there. So, I mean, if the Public Service Commission has concerns about these issues, I certainly think it's something that we should be concerned about as well. And until those problems are fixed, safety is an even bigger concern than it would have been otherwise.
If I could, Kim, I will take it that you would like us to consider this matter further before approving it. I'd ask if it...
I'm opposed to it altogether.
Okay,
I think
so noted. Mike, do you want to make some addressment here?
One, we are not a gathering company. We're a gas utility. We have no intention of using eminent domain. Again, the gathering company or the producer would be responsible for bringing the gas to us. And we would be in public right away. We have no intention of using them in the domain. We are very tightly regulated by the New York Public Service Commission. There is a permanent inspector at the site of all of our construction. So if we build here, we've just built a lot of lines, new lines in Virgil. They will be inspected when built. All of our plans will be overseen by the Public Service Commission. We need permits to build in town roads from the Highway Department. Now, relative to the upgrade, we did upgrade 1.9 miles of pipe last year from the Pennsylvania border up in the town of Caton. That upgrade was very tightly regulated by the New York Public Service Commission. The line had to be pressure tested. Wells had to be x-rayed. We upgraded it from 124 pounds to 400 pounds, not 4,000 pounds.
Jim Austin was the one who gave the example.
Jim Austin oversaw part of that upgrade. He knows we upgraded from 124 to 400 pounds. It's in the public record. And the line has been operational for the last almost 1 year. Again, you're talking about a brand new, that was a steel line. We intend to put no steel lines in this town. All our pipe will be plastic. plastic can only be run at up to 124 pounds. It cannot be upgraded. And again, we are not asking for in the business to be a gathering company. This is not a charade in order to get eminent domain to build gathering, which is, I think, the subject of the letter. We're not going to gather gas, and if at all possible, I would believe, and we can negotiate with the town, we're not going to use eminent domain.
Right. So we could pretty well rule that out.
We will be negotiating contract with the town.
Part of the negotiations.
Would that be legally ruled out?
That's part of the negotiations. If we put that in the contract and say, I'd like to get some legal research that probably would require more than a local attorney, but the moral of the story is I would like to get some information because we may well be able to make that part of our agreement to franchise, is that eminent domain is not part of the program without coming back to the town or something to that effect. No? We have, sir.
Hi, Steve Mason, Route 235, big blue mailbox if anybody wants to come over for a cup of coffee. I have 2 points. First of all, this is addressed to the first fellow who spoke. I understand that you want to make a good impression here because you're doing business. I'm hard of hearing, and I was sitting in the back. I thought I heard you say, we're not a pipeline company. We're a distribution company. And then you started talking about our pipelines, our pipelines, our pipelines. It sounds, I don't know, it seems disingenuous to me to speak that way. I think it's fair to say we're going to come in and build some pipelines here and you guys think it's a good thing. But to say we're not a pipeline company, I think it's kind of insulting to these people. Even if it's technically correct, a pipeline company means something else in your business. And I wouldn't do that again if you go to another town.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, and you're a nice guy.
No intention.
Just drop the line from your spiel.
I came here to be critiqued. So
no, the rest of the stuff is great. This is just an opinion. From studying and listening, it seems to me that there is absolutely zero benefit to the people who live in Coventry to have this company do this work here, and there's a lot of potential risk.
Yeah.
That's all.
Amen.
Yeah. Yes,
I'd like to ask a question.
Say your name, please.
Jan O'Shea. Is it true that in order to get granted utilities status by the Public Service Commission, that you need these 3 towns to grant franchises?
Yeah.
Each town is treated separately, but before the Public Service Commission will grant a franchise, the town has to grant a franchise first.
Okay, so you cannot get public utility status until you have a franchise in hand from each of the communities, municipalities that you are going to.
We could go to the Public Service Commission and make franchise we already have in Sydney effective.
Right.
But we cannot, without Coventry, without a franchise.
You're walking around the question.
We need each town's approval to get a franchise in that town.
Okay.
We don't need all 3 to get a franchise in 2.
So if you got a franchise in Sydney,
Yes.
and say Bainbridge,
Yes.
so where would your, whatever you want to call it, like, call it like, I understand this.
You shouldn't do that.
If there was supply of gas in Bainbridge or Sydney and you guys didn't sign, we would pipe Bainbridge and Sydney and not Coventry.
So for it to go through to Green, where Raymond is, that word that hasn't come up yet tonight, you need our franchise.
At the present time, we have no intention of going to Green or Cooperstown for that matter, it would be absolutely, in our opinion, silly.
Thank you. You've answered my question very honestly.
Silly to go to Green or Cooperstown.
Utility go to Raven Corporation?
We have no intention of going to Green.
That doesn't sound reasonable to me.
They're a temperature sensitive. They're a temperature sensitive load. They only tend to have heating, and because of the load profile, it would be very difficult. It would be very difficult to serve Green at this time. It is not our intention to go to Green.
So my next question is.
What do you need Coventry for?
You don't need Raven Corporation. You sure don't need Coventry, right?
Is it really important to go through Coventry?
At the present time, the only active gas wells in this area are in Coventry, and so in order to pick up the supply, we would have to we'd have to be in Coventry.
Personally, I am in favor of this pipeline, this franchise. I feel that the town is in a position to regulate it, regulate franchise, and one of the things I would want before we did all these other things that you want in a franchise agreement would be, the first thing is that no franchise, the franchise will be granted upon condition of receiving public service utility, public service commissions, okay.
That opens the door to eminent domain.
It doesn't make sense to me because
the process of franchise in New York is if you got a contract and a franchise from a town,
right,
you cannot build any pipe without going then to the Public Service Commission having perfected. They go through all the environmental review, the engineering, they oversee the installation of the pipeline. So if we got a franchise from this town, we cannot exercise it and put pipe in the ground until we get subsequent permission from the Public Service Commission.
Okay, so can we condition the franchise granting upon if you go through the whole process and grant, if you follow everything Coventry wants, you get the franchise. Is that possible? Sure.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You might want to note the non-exclusivity of the agreement and also the fact that we have a certain development window.
The typically, if a franchise agreement, it's not necessary, but in every case that we've gotten them,
What makes it easy?
Is non-exclusive. So if you gave us a franchise, you could give a franchise to NYSEG or National Grid tomorrow.
That's okay.
So our franchise agreements are non-exclusive. Typically, if we do not exercise the franchise within 2 years, and that's in most of our agreements, the town has the right to come back and take it away.
Right.
So a lot of towns don't want to just give a franchise out and let somebody sit on it. So you would have the right to take it back in 2 years if we did not put pipe in the ground.
So you can kind of put regulations in there and conditions in there. So you can get franchise. You can get public utility status without our effect.
No, we cannot.
I did not hear what she said, that last sentence. Could you
Her
just
question, I believe, you want to ask your own question?
I don't remember my question.
Your question was...
I asked them and then you answered them.
The question was, can we get public utility status without the town's okay? And the answer to that question is no.
Do you also need, don't you also need Bainbridge and Green?
Please stand up. State your
Yeah,
name.
sorry, I've got a broken foot. My name is Marie Labar, and my parents and I live over on Benedict Road. And I have a couple of questions, but I was just wondering, because somehow a friend of mine got a letter just today or yesterday in the mail, and it's against a lot of these things. So I'm only asking. But one of them was that what it says in the letter is that you guys need Bainbridge and Sydney and us to be declared, hold on a second, to be declared a public utility, and then you would have the power of eminent domain, and you could do what you want. But the thing that I'm wondering is, if you're not going to use eminent domain, then why do you even need to get it? Why do you want it?
Two things. Again, and this question was asked previously. And I just want to make it clear, we're not going to Binghamton, we're not going to Cooperstown.
No, I'm
We're
not
not
going that way.
We're not Norse, we're not a gathering company, and we say we're not a pipeline company, although we put pipelines in the ground. I know that's a mistake, I apologize for that. But we are not a pipeline company, we're a local distribution company. If somebody wants to build a pipeline to Binghamton, and there are people who do, through here, that's not us. We want to pipe these local communities. We are looking for 3 franchises to begin with, which is Coventry, Bainbridge, and the Village of Sydney. We will be talking to other, like Afton, the Village of Bainbridge, afterwards in the town of Sydney. We want to do this local area. We want to provide local gas to these local communities. Now, relative to eminent domain, I believe that given the reception tonight and the size of the crowd, that the town board will quickly talk to whatever attorney they find and see if they can put in the franchise agreement no eminent domain. Because the franchise agreement between Leatherstocking and the town is the controlling document. That is what is filed with the Public Service Commission. I understand NYSEG has eminent domain and other utilities have eminent domain in this town. But the controlling document for every utility is the agreement between the town and the utility. And I have a feeling that when we get done with this meeting, they're going to quickly want to know whether they can whether they can put in the franchise document that eminent domain is not part of this franchise. Mike?
Definitely. I think you're right on the spot.
Okay, thank you very much.
I mean, what we cannot give into a public, the key part of a franchise is not eminent domain. The key part of the franchise is the ability to be in public right-of-ways or to cross public right-of-ways. Obviously, you can't put a pipe anyway, or even if you went in and got easements negotiated, if you don't have if you can't cross a public right-of-way, you're not going anywhere. So what we're really looking for is the right to be in public right-of-ways. We're not looking for eminent domain. That's what we want out of the franchise. And again, we will pipe people along the route. That's what, and in Sydney, for example, they put in, if it's at all economically feasible, they want the schools and the town buildings piped because they want those savings. That's what, that and the property taxes is what the towns and the villages are looking for in the way of a quid pro quo for the franchise agreement.
Correct. Yes, sir. Take your name and Coventry or?
Hi, I'm Pat McCullough. I'm visiting from Guilford tonight. Visiting on behalf of Onondaga Chief Paul Waterman, who worked for Onondaga Nation and Grand Council of Chiefs. His title was Gayasa Toyenta. I'm going to guess I'm the only one that knows what that means. So I thought I'd explain.
You don't speak up. Speak up. We don't have microphones in here. Right.
Enunciate is the word.
And you're facing forward, so it's hard for us to hear.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Awesome. That's right.
Behind you? All right.
Stand right behind me.
I'm Pat McCullough. I'm here from Guilford, and I'm here on behalf of Onondaga Chief Paul Waterman, who is a Gayasa Toyenta. And it's hard to translate. Having fun, Bob. It's hard to translate. That means water messenger. And I have a piece of wampum from Onondaga to do this. It means I can't argue with people. There have been a couple little arguments tonight. There's some people laughing, having fun, that's okay. But what I have to say really is for everybody. It doesn't matter if it's people that are pro-gas, anti-gas. Everybody, this is an important thing. Water's the first law of life. it is on Earth when they go to other planets, technology, spacecrafts, they look for water. See, there could be life there. All water naturally contains life. Everywhere on Earth there's water, there's life. The only places on Earth with water there's not life is where people have polluted it with chemicals from industry, similar to the chemicals used with fracking. Water that's polluted kills things around it. That includes human beings. Pollution that's put in water flows downstream. Flows downstream to the next community, flows downstream to the next generation. Nature's an interesting thing. In some ways, it's beautiful, gentle, and life-supporting. But when you break natural law, it's harsh, violent, and can be deadly. That brings up the two types of law. There's man's law. If you violate man's law, you can hire an attorney. You can get a plea deal, sometimes probation, sometimes you're not even caught. And you can avoid the consequences. If you violate natural law, there are no attorneys, there's not a judge, you can't make a deal with the DA, you can't get a plea bargain, there's only the consequences. We talk about private property, eminent domain, things like that. A piece of wampum is from when people, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Ben Franklin, they came to this country and they were dealing with problems with eminent domain, with King George. They met with Paul's grandfathers and other Iroquois leader. That's how they came up with the ideas of this country that that flag represents. I also like to say on private property, I've had experience. There was near Sydney, the Bags landfill, Bainbridge, Afton, Guilford, Sydney. Private property, guy running his own business. Polluted, caused disease, caused death in the area. To clean it up, who got the bill? Those communities. Richardson Hill landfill, 120 acres. Industry polluted there, legally and illegally. Government ordered a cleanup. The industries took it to federal court, August and November of 1999. Wasn't reported in the papers. They won. Bob, that came before you, one of the things I wouldn't blame you for. But you know, Sydney got a bill, didn't they?
I wasn't the supervisor there, number one.
Oh, I know.
And number two, this is amusing.
I would ask you to try and wrap it up and state your opposition or support of this matter.
Well, I am in favor of clean water and just asking people to give things a lot of thought. Whether you're pro or anti gas drilling, just give it a lot of thought of what you put into the water. Thank you.
Before you go, I'd like to let Chief Waterman know that his predecessor, Leon Powis, met with myself in 1998 in an effort to stop the nuclear waste dump and helped us with that years ago.
That was Urban.
That was Urban, yeah. We chased buffalo all over there while we had beer. So in any case, tell him thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Sir.
Hi, my name is Larry Clark. I'm from Coventry. My question is, do you currently have any contracts with the people putting the wells right now to actually get gas in those wells? Or is that something that you're going to, or could procure from other pipelines?
We have no contracts at the present time with any producer in the area. We have been in discussions with a couple of producers, some in Coventry and some in other towns. And we would, if we had the franchise, continue those discussions with producers both in Coventry and in the other towns mentioned today.
But nothing right now that's written down that you're going to get that, or the ability to get that gas?
We have nothing in writing at the present time that gives us the ability to get that gas.
Thank you.
Dan Fisk over Speesack Road. John, I got a question for you, buddy. Is this whole matter going to be brought up in a real democratic manner? In other words, is everybody in the town of Coventry going to be able to vote on this? We're going to have a vote.
We're going to have, at this point, we're planning on public hearings and taking input, and then the town board will vote on the matter. But is it scheduled for public referendum? I don't think so.
It's not going to be a public vote, then it's going to be a town board vote.
Correct. No. I mean, we're doing straw polls. We're going to do straw polls here before we leave. We did straw polls last time. But in any case, it's a majority rules kind of thing.
Thanks, John. To you gentlemen, say they're putting plastic. Now, I don't know too much about seismic activity and how that reacts with this particular pipeline. I'm sure you fellows have great experience with it. Maybe clear us up on it. But I'm a little bit concerned about, I don't think it happened necessarily in Coventry. If these pipelines go all over, like I'm picturing this, sort of like a spider web, where Coventry is just one of the small webs that are at. If something should happen somewhere else, what happens to this plastic pipe with this? Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is an explosive turret.
It's a combustible material.
It's just a WAG system. That's a military term. Wild ash gas. I think it's explosive.
If it burns in a range of 5 to 15% gas and 85% air. If in a confined space, it was to ignite, it would explode. Typically, it burns like in a furnace, a boiler, a hot water heater, or an industrial plant. But if there is a pipeline break and it becomes loose and it is in a confined space, it will blow up. If there is a 5 to 15% gas to air ratio.
Okay. In other words, if the ratio is everything.
Yes.
Is correct. What makes me nervous, I spent over 21 years in the U.S. Army. I had 18 years in Paul Bravo. I don't know if you know Paul Bravo, but we were demo experts. And I don't know how many guys have been here sit in a pit, a sand pit with 13 trained soldiers with each carrying a half pound of TNT and blasting caps, but it kind of makes you nervous. And I'm picturing that this is what the whole entire town of Coventry could be feeling like, with gas lines running down Speesack Road, across 206, maybe up Coffee Street. I don't know. Well, you guys are planning on going. It's all not planned right now.
But right now, you know, we're going to be in the public right away, and we will be going through town, and we will try to pick up public buildings and any areas where there is a cluster of homes or commercial establishments. To put this within context, 65% of all homes in the United States have natural gas service. It is the predominant fuel. So in the United States, it is the largest produced fuel in the United States. It is the largest consumed fuel in this country. It is unusual to have communities that do not have natural gas service.
Well, welcome to Coventry, New York.
It is, as was said, a substantial disadvantage economically, because the price of gas today delivered to a residential customer is about $9 to $10 a million BTU, and the price of oil is $30, or 25 to 30. The price of propane is $30 a million BTU. It is a very substantial disincentive to businesses. Very difficult to maintain businesses, manufacturing, particularly without natural gas service. Now, what we will be putting in this town is high-density plastic pipe. This pipe is not the type that you've read about. There was an explosion in Philadelphia, one in Elmira, one in Allentown, and there was a large explosion in California this year. Those are all older steel lines. Two of them were old cast iron, 100-year-old mains. We are putting in high-density plastics that does not corrode. It has thick walls. It is being put in extensively in Japan, for example, to withstand seismic activity. So it is the best that you can do to ensure safety. And unless somebody comes out there with a backhoe and it happens, and puts a hole in it, it does not break.
Before war, and I have it, he's come back over.
But
I appreciate that, and that's a good point. But correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that the population of Coventry is 1,600, give or take.
Give or take.
I haven't left yet, so it might be 60. I just can't see where this type of explosive material spread throughout our main streets and whatnot could be that advantageous.
Again, it is extraordinarily safe. It spreads through the streets. It spreads to the streets of every major metropolitan area, minor metropolitan area in this country. New York City, every street virtually in the city of New York has every, and I mean, and you have a question. You have electric lines here.
But you said only the people that are close. Most of the Coventry people, we live on side streets, miles away from, say, 206. Yeah.
Your schools, your municipal buildings will get lower cost energy. You will probably not.
Our schools next door have been inactive for 30-some years. I think.
You will probably, if you are not near the areas, then you will probably not get gas bills.
So Dan, was that a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or is it thumbs across?
Thumbs down. Okay, I appreciate it, gentlemen. Appreciate it very much.
Good evening. I'm Earl Wayne Colley. I'm from Afton. I'm a foreigner. And thank you, Mr. Bellin, for allowing me to speak tonight. But I am speaking for many members of your community. I am a representative from the Central New York Landowners Association and the Joint Landowners Coalition of New York. I commend you on doing your research and your homework. I think you will make the right decision. I love the name Leatherstocking. I think it's very appropriate today. I also thank you, gentlemen, for being pioneers and having the courage to try it. I hope to deal with you individuals in the capacity of the Landowners Coalition executive. Also with you, Mr. Bellin, and your board. It helps to put to rest one of the myths from the anti-gas people. I am so pleased that a local resource is being used locally and not as quoted being shipped off to China or India or Europe or any place else. You will stand there as living proof that natural gas can be accomplished safely within the state of New York. And I thank you for it. And after you do all of your research, I pray that you do pass it. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
My name is Chris Barbish, and I think you probably know my dad if you worked on that little arrangement trying to keep people with a low-level radiation away from here.
Oh, I know your dad now.
Yeah. Yep, my dad. I think my father would be sick at heart to see what's going on here right now. I'm positive he would be. One of the things he came up here for was clean air, clean water, and a nice place to live for his kids. And I think that what we're talking about right now is really developing infrastructure for the people who are coming in here and basically trying to take those things away from the people who live here for a buck. Now, I understand I go out and work for a living just like everybody else, and I know I need to keep my house, my family in heat and hammer. Okay? Those are important things. I need to send my kids to school. But one thing I don't want to see happen is this place that a lot of people love just for being able to walk outside, see a deer, see some birds, be destroyed by the gas companies. And as wonderful and nice as these guys are, I spoke to Mike, I spoke to Joe, both really nice guys. I'll tell you, my first conversation that I had with anybody from an energy source, from an energy company, was somebody from Nornu. And the first question they asked me and my brother was, do you have a gun? It's an amazing first question. But I'll tell you what, I really understand why he asked me that question now. I really do. I see what's going on. I see lots of people here all frightened about what's going to happen. And we're really depending, we're looking for you guys to help us out in some way, shape, matter, or form. If something's going to happen, what I want to see happen is to slow down, if not stop, this destruction of, I see it as destruction of a great lifestyle that a lot of people have here. And if you can't tell, I am vehemently against this particular pipeline. That's all I have.
John, I'm James Hammond. I live right here in Coventry, and I've listened to all the pros and the cons, and I have to agree that it sounds good. The only problems that I see is they don't want to run it to green, which doesn't make any sense to me. The wells are clear over by Buckley Hill. Why would they take the expense to run the lines up here to this town? Because there's not that many people here, and even if everybody here hooked up on it, I don't see how they're going to gain a profit. So who's going to be paying for this ultimately in the end? Is it going to be all of us through our taxes? Is it going to be us having to, when we actually sign up and we get this gas as well? There's some still quite a few concerns that I have as far as monetary too. You know, because I can see the pipelines coming through, and I understand, you know, it sounds good. They're going to give us 100 feet here or there, but who's paying for it ultimately?
Mike, do you want to answer that? I've yet to find the cost for the town here. Is there any surprises there that I haven't seen?
There is no cost to the town. We just pay taxes and we provide gas to any facilities along the way. Our rates are regulated by the New York Public Service Commission, so we cannot just raise them, and so we have rate regulation. We just can't capture that money from people who hook up. The principal payers for this line, in all likelihood, will be the large customers at the end of the line, who will be the largest users. So there are some industrials who are at the end of the line in Sydney that were mentioned by you. They are high load factor customers. They're not heating customers like Green, which is Raymond. And so they use the gas year round, and you can provide them with local production because local production is pretty much year round. In Green, it's a much more difficult proposition, and that's why we do not intend to go there, because the principal industrial in Green and the whole town, well, principal industrial is temperature sensitive, would not be an easy fit with local production. The rest of the town has municipal electric, which would be very difficult to compete against on price. So Green is not an attractive target financially. The people who will pay for the line typically are the large industrial customers at the end of the line who would use the line year-round.
That's my question, because we really don't have any large industrial customers here in Coventry. So who's going to pick up that cost?
The only cost is if you were buying it as a homeowner, would be the price you paid for the gas along with the transportation cost of it.
All right, but then again, how long is it going to be too before everyone in town is going to be mandated that they're going to have to hook up to these lines whether they use it or not?
We are not a water utility.
No, I understand that, and I'm not saying that you would actually say that, but there have been, whether it be sewer, water, there are times when there are towns that come out and say, okay, well, they're here, you have to hook up to it, whether you're going to use it or not. It's happened before. It's happened in Owego. It's happened out in Appalachian.
Water and sewer can mandate use, and typically it's municipal water and sewer companies that are owned by the local municipality. We cannot, under New York Public Service Commission rules or our franchise agreement, mandate any use of gas by any customer. It has never been done, as far as I know, in the history of the United States, in any community that a customer has been mandated to use gas. It certainly has never been done in New York State. We are prohibited from doing that, and the only people who can do that that I'm aware of are water and sewer companies that are municipal companies.
Yeah, I like I said, I guess I still have to object to it because I still don't see a point for it to come here and through the town. But that's my opinion.
We have a benefit package or a negotiation.
How y'all doing? I'm Rick Brown. I live right down the road here. About 6 years ago, my wife and I moved to Coventry. Beautiful area. Since we've been here, our taxes have doubled. We really haven't done that much with the property. I don't understand that part of it, but now I have about a half mile of road frontage, which would be where you'd be running this. And I would be stuck with a half a mile of this in my front yard. And I really don't like the idea of it. Now, I'm just one person, my wife, my son, my grandson. But I'm sure there's other people that feel the same way, that this is kind of being forced for something we're not going to get any benefit from. We don't use this energy, and it's a chance of polluting. I mean, whether it's a spill, a leak, or whatever, there's more risk than benefit. I mean, the only people that will benefit will be you all, because you will make profits at our expense. I mean, you will be putting in the pipeline, you'll maintain it, but you will be making profits off of our potential hazard. And I don't feel right about that.
Speak up.
Speak up, honey.
Loud.
Okay.
We may someday, we'll go join we keep this up.
Okay, my name is Joan LeBar, and my feelings about this is I think you folks are fine, okay? I don't have any argument with you because you're tapping into something that someone else is doing right now. Like you said, you're going to distribute. And I do agree that gas is clean, but it's clean only after you've retrieved it and processed it. The process itself, they are trying to improve it. I don't have all the latest research, and they are trying to improve the fracking situation, but the gentleman, when they're talking about clean air, water, and everything, that part is true. See, once your water is polluted, you can't clean this up. It would be nice, but you can't. And some of these chemicals that they use are very dangerous. They're hormonal and neuronal in nature. And neuronal means it will affect the central nervous system. That doesn't mean it's going to affect you right away. It may take years. So when you see an ad on television that says natural gas is clean, it is, but only after this very messy process of extracting it, getting it separated, cleaning it up, and the fluids that you use, even though they've promised us that they're going to put pipes in that can't break. Being familiar with plastics, I'm going to mention that. You know, I don't know what kind of plastic you're going to use, but plastics have a tendency, they can be made soft at first, but over time, and I don't know how much time, see, I don't have all of that. Over time, plastics can become brittle. And that's the problem with plastics. So no matter what we use, that doesn't mean I'm for or against. What I want is to make sure that the process itself is safe first, because the cleanliness of it, it's just not going to help us. It's the process that you're going to have to deal with that is not safe, at least not yet. It's safe until something happens. And, you know, it is like Japan. I am so saddened by that and so crushed. And these people, I do think they did the best they could, you know, to prevent something. But nobody, you know, nature has a way of throwing things at you that you're totally unprepared for. You think you were, but you're not. And I think that's what I'm worried about. I'm not against you folks. I do understand, and guess what? I do want to keep my house warm. I have arthritis, and I want the energy just as much as anybody. But I just want to make sure that we don't do something, and this isn't just Coventry, it's everywhere. We do have to take risks, I do understand that. But these chemicals are more than taking a risk, the fracking chemicals. And we have a list of them. But these companies are not obligated, believe it or not, by the EPA to tell you what they are. So they will be using chemicals that you're not even sure what these chemicals are. But the places where this has been reached and where the scientists have been able to pick up the chemicals and analyze them, they are pretty horrendous. And that's what I'm worried about. If it gets into your water, you're not going to clean it up because we have no way to do it. And I do thank you so much for letting us speak up and share with you, because this is important, and I do understand the need for energy. I really do.
Thank you.
And we're on a very tight budget, so I need the energy very badly.
I just want to point out, so that you're aware of it, and maybe, I don't know what the misinformation or information, but none of neither the open well or there are several other permits in process, none of those are in the Marcellus layer. None of those are hydrofracked. They're pure sandstone wells. They just drill in, they drill across to get area, and the gas comes out.
Right, and
it's a very dry gas. It requires very, very little treatment. Pretty much ready to burn.
When you say sand or whatever, these may be the wells that you're talking about, but this is going to be so much bigger. I think that's what I'm sharing with you. See, it's not just going to be Coventry or Sydney or Bainbridge. It's going to encompass so many large areas. And you know, when you get something that big, your water table underneath, if anything, even the tiniest amount. And this is the other thing that most people don't realize. These chemicals hurt you in tiny amounts. They used to think it was large amounts, and that is not true. It's hormonally, if you want to think about it, some of the hormones that we have in our bodies are so minute, yet they're extremely strong. So you do not need a lot to hurt a human being. And especially pregnant women, their babies, you know, you kind of have to think down the road. I think I would be all for this if they could somehow find a way to frack without using these chemicals. And then we'd all, you know, it'd be nice. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My name is Wayne Lydecker. I own property in Afton. I've been there about 20 years. You know, it's a shame that so many people feel the sky is falling, but it's not. We have the science, we have the DEC working on all of this, and there's going to be plenty of regulations involved. As long as the laws are followed, the regulations are taken into consideration, there should not be any problems at all. We have all kinds of things in the society. You fly a plane, it could be a crash. You drive a car, you could have gotten an accident getting here. There's always something that can happen. But you can't live your life in fear because something could happen. All right, you have to go on what looks like it will go through. And I'm all for it. Thank you.
Chris Dudden, Coventry. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming here tonight. And this is the pipeline. I'd like to speak to the pipeline itself and not the drilling. It's not here tonight. As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, does the town receive a property tax from the pipeline company? Well, sorry, not pipeline company, but from the distribution company for putting the pipeline in place? Is that, you pay property tax on that?
Yes.
Okay, so the town will receive property tax
just like NICEAG
for for this line coming through our town. So that's more property taxes that our town will get. That's a benefit to us, because if the town is collecting more property tax from somebody else, it means that we all pay less property tax. Here. So there's a real property tax. I've also grown up on natural gas. I understand a lot of you. I understand a lot of you, are from this area all your life and haven't been exposed to it. I grew up with natural gas, where the lines went to every house and every development, and I lived in my last house for 30 years, and I've never seen an explosion, never seen any leaks. There was never any problem. I would much rather have a natural gas line feeding my house so I can heat my house with natural gas with a furnace instead of having to haul wood and burn wood. I see how many fires you see a year from burning wood.
They didn't generate the gas that old.
So, excuse me, I have the floor, please.
Yes.
So from burning wood, there's fires all the time. You're worried about explosions, you're worried about fires. Think about that a little bit. The natural gas is safe, it's a clean, efficient burn, and it's produced locally. And what better thing can we do? And again, to provide jobs, if we're going to send it out to these local companies, and give them the incentive to stay here, maybe our children don't have to leave the area to go find work. All my kids are gone. 3 of them grew up here, and now all 3 of them are gone because there's nothing for them here. Okay? If these jobs can stick around, maybe more companies, more businesses come in, we might have an opportunity for your children to stay here in this area. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Regina Mason. I live on Route 235, and I have a friend who lives in Owego, and the gas line came through by eminent domain. She has 75 acres. They took 50 acres. They cut her a check. She had no negotiating rights at all. They cut her a check for $200 an acre. They said that she can, quote unquote, use the land, but she's not allowed to fence it, which meant she had to take all her livestock off the land. They left her with 25 acres of wooded area, no pasture. So they shut down her farm. And to boot, she has to pay the taxes. Okay, Owego, right on that Montrose Turnpike Road, right up in there, they came through. Our other friend who had this gorgeous piece of country property that they bought, they moved in from West Virginia or somewhere like that. They came to this region because of the beauty, because of the music and the musicians in the area. The pipeline came through. They can see it from her house. It's this big gorge through the woods. And directly from her front window are 5 gas wells. And every few hours this plume goes up and it's this big ordeal. These are both in Owego. It's right around the corner. But they destroyed my friend's livelihood. She can't farm anymore. She's reduced to something like 40 sheep, and that's all she can handle on her properties. And she has to pay the taxes, and nobody will buy the piece now. She can't sell it. She's paying taxes on 50 acres she's not allowed to use. That's what we're facing. It's not right.
The Owego situation was probably the Millennium Pipeline, which is an interstate pipeline, and why we didn't get called a pipeline, why we like to call a local distribution company. You have federal eminent domain authority with an interstate pipeline. We are negotiating local agreements, and we will be staying in local right-of-ways. An interstate pipeline has a 70 to 75 foot wide right-of-way because it is a high-pressure 30-inch steel line running at 1,000 pounds. Obviously, we're putting in plastic. We're going to be in the public right-of-way at 124 pounds, and I think it's likely we will work out where we won't exercise eminent domain whatsoever in the town of Coventry. But again, that's why we said we're not a pipeline, because that's not what we do. Pipeline, interstate pipeline that gets authority from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission will be running 36-inch wide pipe at 1,000 pounds, and will need a 70-foot wide right-of-way, and will have and exercise the right of eminent domain when they get it. We are a local distribution company. We cannot come without a contract, a franchise from a local entity, and we're not going to be on public land, private land. We'll be in the public right-of-way. And our purpose would be to not, if possible, not use any land other than what is from the ditch in on the side of the road.
Bruce Erickson, my concern is about the pipeline going a little deeper than eminent domain and the name of the pipeline.
Louder, please.
My concerns are that this pipeline going through our town is going to be a signal to the gas drillers, okay, let's go in, let's start drilling wells.
Yeah.
That's my concern. Yeah. And as nice as you guys seem, I just can't buy that you feel that it's your civic duty to supply the local people with cheap local gas. I just don't buy that. And I think there's a lot of backdoor politics going on, and I think our town is tired of backdoor politics. Backdoor politics.
Sally Doty. I live over on Spizak Road. Yeah, you guys seem nice. You seem like nice guys. My concerns are a couple of things, and it's all safety. To cite that the plastic is being used, it's a new plastic that you're using for the pipes. To cite that they use it in Japan, that's not a good. That's not a good example of safety. And any of the metropolitan cities that I'm aware of don't have the extreme winters that we have. We have frost heaves that are very strong frost heaves. And you're talking about if somebody might accidentally, stupidly hit a pipe with a bucket loader or something. We've got frost heaves and we have more rocks than we have dirt. It's very powerful. Mother Nature is very powerful. That's a real concern of mine. Another concern I have is Leatherstocking LLC. Limited liability company. That doesn't instill a good feeling to know that you're talking about safety and you're a limited liability company. The other concern I have is I think I just heard you say earlier that we're not going to have a whole town vote on any of the gas stuff, whether it's the pipeline or... Did you not say you were having straw poll votes and then the town board would vote?
The only thing I was speaking to specifically was the Leatherstocking LLC proposal for a franchise in the town of Coventry. Completely removed from local laws banning injection wells, local laws regulating pipelines, local laws potentially regulating fracking in the future or banning it.
Will we have actual, the town gets to vote on these issues? Or is it just, you had mentioned straw polls and then the town board voting? And if that's so, if any votes about the gas industry activities at all here are not voted on by everyone, but are only voted on by the board, I think we need it on record. Anybody on the board that has received or thinks they will receive any incentives financially or otherwise from any of the gas industry people.
Leave me out.
No one has any incentives or plans on receiving any incentives. That can be on the record.
None of us are leased.
Can I speak to the plastic issue? Sorry. The plastic used on gas pipe, high-density polyethylene, has been around 30 or 40 years?
35 to 40 years. It's been used all over the country.
It's used all over the country. They are integrating in Japan because it tends to be earthquake resistance. I didn't mean to imply that it's manufactured or produced or was developed in Japan.
Oh no, I didn't mean I didn't mean that at all. I just meant, you know, yeah, they don't have a great safety record at this point. But we have such along our roads, they can't keep up with simple potholes. I mean, it's a disgrace the way our roads are taken care of. They can't keep up with simple potholes because it's not because they're incompetent. It's because of Mother Nature and the nature of where we live. To have any kind of explosive pipelines running under the ground should be a concern. It should be a concern to everyone because of the frost heaves, the potholes. We see how it all goes. That should be a concern.
The northern tier of the United States, be it Bismarck, North Dakota, or Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Detroit, Cleveland, Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, Glens Falls, all have had natural gas for 50 to 100 years. We bury it deep enough, we pack it in sand so the rocks don't become an issue. That frost is an issue, but it is handled, and it is not a major issue with our industry. It is not an issue, as far as I understand it, at all with new pipe. If you're talking about older cast iron pipe, which is more brittle and can be over 100 years old, then frost can become a serious issue. Obviously, no one's put cast iron pipe in the United States in the ground since just after World War II. Yeah. And so we're putting in the best there is. It is proven out in northern climates to be completely frost resistant, in climates more severe than Coventry. Again, if you go to Norwich, there's gas in Norwich. If you go to Oneonta, there's gas in Oneonta. Again, Syracuse. The entire northern tier of this country has natural gas in severe frost conditions. It is not a concern. But again, we do pack the pipe in sand. We do not have rocks against our pipe. That is against the law. It has to be buried here a minimum of 24 inches.
24 inches minimum. We bury it 30 inches to the top of the pipe.
To the top of the
with
pipe.
6 inches of sand on the top, the sides, and the bottom. And then it's buried with a plastic ribbon for identification and for notice if somebody does dig above it. Sorry.
How deep in the ground?
It's
minimum of 24
inches under code. We buried to 30.
We buried to 30.
30 inches of cover.
And then a wire is put along with it for location purposes.
Oh, one other thing I'd like to say is I never hear anybody talk about geothermal.
Doesn't exist here.
It exists everywhere.
Yeah, they can't get it here. We don't have the technology to get it here.
In Binghamton, they've got geothermal.
I think you got it.
I mean for power. I mean for heating.
Okay, you have
for heating, which is what most people's concern is heating.
You have two types of geothermal. The geothermal, where you drill a well into a hot formation, get steam out again, run a turbine, is in California, is in Nevada, and it's not around here.
Right, I'm talking about.
There is a second type of geothermal. You can drill a well into the ground and run it off a heat pump. It's a geothermal heat pump. It's run with electricity. In this area, it would be quite expensive not only to put in, but also to operate. But when I was at NYSEG, we did a lot of work on geothermal heat pumps, particularly in western New York. So if that type of geothermal is available here, and it is, if you're using electric heat, it is a much more efficient electric heat than traditional electric heat.
Does anyone else like to address the board?
I'd like to ask a question. Very hard. When you started this program,
can you speak up?
Have the intention of hiring locally to, install this the piping and to, have many people retrofit people's homes for the natural gas? Because most people aren't set up for that. You're going to have meter readers. You're going to have to start a whole new set of employment.
Let me answer that. As far as construction and installation, we
have a crew of people that do a lot of this work ourselves within the company. But when we get into a bigger job, such as laying main into a new area or something like that, we tend to hire it out to a local construction company. We have local construction companies. The problem with hiring just any contractor, however, is an issue. You've got to have somebody that meets all of the code requirements by the Public Service Commission. So we can't go out and hire somebody that can dig just because they can dig. We have to have somebody that knows how to install a gas main, knows how to install it properly, and then we have to watch them while they're doing it. So we hire local contractors. We have several local contractors. We have one out of Owego, in fact, that has done a lot of work for us in Corning. We have several in Elmira. We have them, they're all over the place, in Rochester. If there were a local contractor here, absolutely, we would give them an opportunity if they have the ability to install natural gas in the ground.
So it's not just installing, it's
then as far as
follow-up afterwards, also with customers.
Operating and maintaining. Okay, well, let's talk, okay, as far as installing systems into people's houses, we have nothing to do with that. We do not get involved in that. We can't as a utility. So therefore, we have to rely on the local HVAC, the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning companies, and the plumbers.
Market for
there is absolutely a market for it. You know, oftentimes if you go into an area where you put in a gas main and there were propane prior to that, the propane contractors could then take that business and actually install the heating systems in people's houses for them. Absolutely. And so we keep hands off of that part of it. They're regulated a whole different way by the codes and the building codes and everything else, so we don't want to get involved in what's inside the house.
You're just street to door.
Street to the door, yeah. We put the meter up against the house, and then the heating contractor connects the two together.
Meter reader?
Need a meter reader? Sure. Sure.
Is anyone else that hasn't addressed the board yet would like to?
I'm Rima Loeb. I live in Acton. However, I live within less than a mile from Coventry. The two wells that were originally requested to be permitted were not that far from my home up the hill. And it was even rumored at that point that I have withdrawn at this point the request for those permits. But the compressor station would have been also less than a mile in the other direction. I am very concerned about A, my water, since thanks to compulsory integration, they can drill right under my land, mess up my water, and I think there are people here who probably know that methane at least does migrate. Probably the chemicals migrate, the radioactive materials and the norms migrate. So I have an interest in this. I don't pay taxes here, but I am a neighbor, and I'm a little upset that my property will be worth nothing. I won't even be able to get away. And we will indeed, many of us, need to get away. If any of you had attended the health conference by leading doctors and scientists in this state last Sunday, it's not a fear, it's not a myth, it's not something we're making up. One of the presenters, the chemist, said, "Remember Love Canal? If we go ahead with this gas thing, this is about a lot more than a pipeline. That's opening the door. If we go ahead with drilling for natural gas, hydrofracking, the whole thing that's being planned, we just have to travel to Pennsylvania to see what's there. I'm not just talking about Dimmick. There are many, many people who are suffering down there. One person may get rich and maybe they'll be fine. Their neighbor could be destroyed. And I know people. One woman, and this is Dimmick, lives with 5 gas wells flaring. You would not believe the sound. She said they did it for a whole week. It was so bad Her water's already ruined. But it was so horrible. She said, I don't have to die to go to hell. I'm living it. I can't sell my place. I'm stuck. Now, I ask you all, think seriously, and number one, you talk about your children and your grandchildren won't be able to live in this area of New York State if you go ahead with this. Don't take it from me. Look at the county medical societies. Broome County Medical Society came out about a month ago, a statement absolutely opposing it. Bassett Hospital, okay? Please use the precautionary principle, which is what intelligent leaders, intelligent communities do. Don't stick the future with a nightmare. There are other jobs. And geothermal is possible. I know 2 people in Binghamton who have it now. Solar is more than possible. And when our government starts subsidizing solar and wind the way they subsidize oil and gas, we'll be on our way to a beautiful future. We won't be destroying anything.
It's 9:30. I think that at some point we're going to call it a night. If there's interest, we'll have another public hearing. Simple as that. Simple as that. I don't want to cut anybody off, but I also want us to all get home safely, and I also know that I'm getting tired. I would think everybody else is, you know. So if you would, go ahead and speak, and we'll, at some point we're going to cut off and we'll reschedule another.
I'll be real brief. I'm Marlon White, property owner here in Coventry. Regarding the franchise, two things come to mind. Storage and liability. I'd like to hear what you
We have no intention of storing gas in this area. I wouldn't see why anyone would want to, but you know, again, that's not our business. We are a utility. So there is storage throughout New York State. There's a lot of gas storage throughout the United States. But I would see no reason why anyone would want to store gas in Coventry, and certainly that's not our business.
The liability would be addressed in the franchise, correct?
What?
That would be addressed in the franchise.
It could be, but we're getting a franchise which would not include the right to store gas. It would be the right to distribute gas in the area. So it could be, if you wanted it to be addressed in the franchise. We are liable for all damages that would occur as a result of our construction. Again, we would work closely with the highway department. We would need to get permits. We would remediate any roads. And as you know, gas companies are liable for any accidents that would occur on their system. Again, our belief is there wouldn't be any, just because we're putting in a brand new gas system. It will be marked extensively, which was an issue for the town. So everyone will know where it is. But again, even if we had a franchise, even was blessed by the New York Public Service Commission on the town road issue, we would have to get permits, and we would have to assume liability for anything that would happen during the construction process. Typically, we have to put a bond up during the construction process.
I'm proposing that we have a second public hearing on June 22nd, 2 weeks from tonight. I'm proposing that would be a little earlier, say 7. Okay, 7 p.m. I'm guessing that there will be a good deal of media coverage that will get throughout our town. Additional questions will develop, and we may have some answers for questions that have already been posed. So with that, I would look for a motion to close tonight's public hearing and to establish a second public hearing for the 22nd of June at 7 p.m.
John, are they back?
If we treat them nice, I imagine that at least a few, I know that there's a great interest to them as well. You know, you just, so
They get overtime, John?
They're getting the time for it now. So that's...
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing. And on June 22nd, we'll have a new public hearing. Second public hearing for the people of Coventry.
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Second?
Good.
You want a second, Marion? Or?
You want a second?
Yeah.
Make sure you tell me.
Make a difference.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. So, with that, all in favor?
John, does that give us enough time to put it in the paper?
10 days. Yes, 10 days. Yeah, that does. Now, let's see. Wait a minute now, because our paper only comes out. Hang on.
Only comes out on Thursdays.
You might want to push that out.
So let's see.
Yeah.
You'll have to push that out for the reading.
Yeah, it's in already for this week. So next week would be the 16th. That isn't going to work. Good catch, George. It's not going to. Not going to work. Let's see.
29th?
29th works for me.
Is that a Wednesday night, guys?
We need the whole crew. I'm not anybody's. Yeah, anybody.
Can everybody quiet down so we can hear what this is?
John, what's the 29th?
Everybody?
Okay, as long as they stay on. So the 29th?
We'll make it work.
We'll get Lori to put it right in the paper.
So, we'll hope that we will have Leatherstocking representatives here. The meeting, I'm going to amend my motion to that the second public hearing will be June 29th at 7. That gives us time for proper notification. Is that suitable with you, Mr. Grove? Do we have a second for that? We have a second. Do we have further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Opposed. One thing before everyone leaves, there's one thing I want to address here.
Hey!
One thing I'd like to address. A little earlier I heard about my board, about open government, about backdoor politics. It doesn't get any more open than this. Was anybody here when the pipeline was passed through on town land 5 years ago? Did you know about it? All right. It's a whole different program today than it was 5 years ago. This is as open as it gets.
I think in all fairness, everybody on 206 should get a letter about it.
Thank you very much.